The Pacific Ocean in April 2026 has become the world's most dangerous digital battleground. Here, beneath the golden hues of a tropical sunset, the USS Gerald R leads a carrier strike group through the contested waters of the Luzon Strait. Recent escalations following Operation Epic Fury have turned these waters into a powder keg. But the threat isn't coming from heavy cruisers, it is brewing far beyond the horizon in the form of a coordinated digital storm. This is Swarmageddon, a tactical nightmare where quantity attempts to overrule quality. The strategic stakes in the Indo-Pacific reached a breaking point this week. Through these narrow channels flows the lifeblood of the global economy, semiconductors from Taiwan and energy for the entire western seaboard. A blockade here doesn't just raise prices, it paralyzes modern civilization. As regional tensions hit a 10-year high, a new doctrine of saturation denial has emerged. Adversaries are no longer firing single-billion-dollar missiles, they are launching hundreds of low-cost autonomous drones to bleed the fleet dry. To survive, the Navy must master the geometry of saturation. It is a cold, mathematical assault. By launching 500 drones simultaneously, the enemy forces the defender into a resource drain trap. Each drone is a precision-guided weapon, and if even 1% of the swarm impacts the carrier's flight deck, the strike group is effectively neutralized. This is the asymmetric reality of 2026, a $50,000 drone versus a $13 billion aircraft carrier. The math of war has never been more brutal. The swarm's origin remains intentionally obscured. In this latest engagement, the drones weren't launched from military piers, but from a fleet of ghost ships, civilian cargo vessels and modified trawlers. Hidden in the cluttered shipping lanes of the South China Sea, these motherships release waves of suicide drones that climb only a few feet above the waterline. By the time the fleet's sensors distinguish them from the waves, the first wave is already closing at high speed, using the ocean's curvature as a shield. As the critical alarm sounds, the strike group transforms into a single, integrated neural network. From the Arleigh Burke destroyers to the logistical support ships, every hull becomes a sensor node in the steel net. This is distributed lethality in its purest form. Data packets move at the speed of light between ships, ensuring that every incoming threat is assigned to the most efficient weapon system. The fleet is no longer just a group of ships, it is a floating supercomputer optimized for survival. At the center of this digital shield is the SPY-6 radar system. These S-band phased arrays are the most sensitive eyes ever put to sea, recently upgraded with 2026 AI firmware. The system can now differentiate between a seabird, a decoy, and a high-explosive kamikaze drone in milliseconds. AEGIS Baseline 10 prioritizes the targets, tagging leaden drones for immediate kill while delegating secondary threats to automated close-in systems. The radar doesn't just see the enemy, it understands their intent. Inside the Combat Information Center, the atmosphere is clinical and intense. Sailors sit before glowing blue consoles, their vision dominated by 3D holographic projections of the incoming swarm. Here, the human-in-the-loop doctrine is tested to its limit. The AI suggests intercept solutions, balancing the use of million-dollar missiles against high-velocity cannons, while the commander provides the final authorization. In this room, the difference between victory and catastrophe is measured in micro-adjustments and nerves of steel. The processing demand of Swarmageddon is staggering. Advanced algorithms now manage the fire control for the entire strike group. The system calculates the perfect intercept point for every drone, accounting for the chaotic swarming flight patterns of the hive. It manages the fleet's global magazine, ensuring that high-value interceptors are never wasted on decoys. This is the algorithm of war, where the side with the most efficient code and the fastest processors dictates the outcome of the battle. The sky provides the first line of defense. F-35C Lightning II stealth fighters, already on combat air patrol, are vectored to intercept the outer ring of the swarm. These jets are essentially flying sensor hubs. Using their distributed aperture system, they relay high-definition targeting data to the destroyers below without ever breaking radio silence. By engaging the swarm at a distance of over 100 miles, the F-35Cs act as the fleet's long-range scalpel, beginning the long call. Through the pilot's augmented reality helmet, the world is a grid of data. Every drone in the swarm is highlighted with a neon cyan targeting box, displaying its velocity and threat level. With a silent command, the pilot releases a volley of AIM-120D missiles. These interceptors are designed for high maneuverability targets, and as they drop from the stealth bays, they are already integrated into the fleet's kill web. It is a seamless execution of long-range aerial denial. The swarm finally becomes visible on the horizon, a dark, buzzing mass that blocks out the setting sun. The collective sound of hundreds of small engines creates a low, menacing hum that vibrates through the hulls of the ships. They fly in a complex, three-dimensional high formation, designed to confuse human optics and saturate the radar's processing capacity. This is the psychological weapon of the swarm, a faceless, infinite enemy that refuses to stop until its last unit is destroyed. On the tactical monitors, the cloud breaks into 500 distinct red icons. The order is given: engage with outer shield. The vertical launch systems on the escort destroyers erupt in a forest of fire. SM-6 and evolved Sea Sparrow missiles roar into the air, their rocket boosters illuminating the twilight sky. This is the outer layer of the integrated shield, the high-altitude intercept designed to shatter the swarm's coordination before it enters the red zone. In the upper atmosphere, the missiles find their marks. Each SM-6 uses its own active radar seeker to hunt down the individual brain drones of the hive. The sky is filled with a mosaic of brilliant white flashes as the interceptors collide with the kamikaze units. Debris rains down into the Pacific, but the swarm is relentless. For every wave destroyed, another seems to emerge from the sea clutter. The adversary is betting that the Navy's magazine will run dry before their drone factories do. As the remaining drones close to within 10 miles, the mid-range defenses activate. This is the domain of the ESSM Block 2's smaller, faster missiles designed for the lethal snap. These interceptors perform high-G turns to catch drones that are zigzagging in a desperate attempt to avoid fire. The deck of the USS Gerald R Ford is a constant roar of activity, the smell of burnt rocket fuel filling the air as the defensive perimeter shrinks and the tension reaches its peak. Now, the battle enters the inner layer, and the defense becomes kinetic. The Phalanx close-in weapon system, the legendary CWAS, in a landmark moment for 2026 naval warfare, the fleet's directed energy weapons are unleashed. The Helios laser system, mounted on the forward deck, fires an invisible beam of concentrated light. It doesn't cause a massive explosion, it simply deletes the drones. By melting their optical sensors or wing spars in seconds, the laser causes the drones to tumble into the ocean. This is the zero-cost intercept, where ammunition is limited only by the ship's nuclear reactors. The impact of the laser defense is clinical. Drones are swatted out of the air like flies, their lithium batteries igniting in small, bright bursts upon hitting the water. But the swarm has a final trick, the sea-skimming surge. While the main body distracts the CIWS and lasers, a small group of high-speed drones attempts an ultra-low altitude approach, flying just 10 feet above the waves. They use the ocean's spray and noise to hide from the primary sensors. The danger is realized. A single drone impacts the side of a Ticonderoga-class cruiser. The explosion isn't a ship killer, but the shrapnel shreds the ship's primary communication arrays and starts a localized fire. This is death by 1,000 cuts, the ultimate goal of the swarm strategy. Damage control teams in silver heatsuits move with practiced precision to the impact site. It is a sobering reminder that even the most advanced shield can be breached by persistence. While the guns roar, a second, invisible war is being fought in the electromagnetic spectrum. EA-18G Growler jets are flooding the airwaves with high-powered digital noise, attempting to sever the swarm's link to its satellite controllers. If a drone loses its hive link, it becomes a dumb brick, falling harmlessly into the Pacific. This is the soft kill. It is the most effective way to neutralize hundreds of units at once without expending a single missile or bullet. Deep within the carrier's secure server rooms, British and American cyber warfare specialists attempt a hive hijack. They identify the specific frequency hopping pattern of the swarm and inject a malicious code. Suddenly, a group of 50 drones stops its attack and begins circling in a useless pattern before nosediving into the sea. This is the pinnacle of 2026 strategy, defeating an entire army with a single line of code, turning the enemy's logic against them. The economic cost of this 30-minute engagement is staggering. The fleet has expended nearly $400 million in interceptors. Meanwhile, the swarm cost the adversary less than 10 million. This economic asymmetry is the trap the West must escape. To win the long war, the Navy is pivoting toward cheaper solutions, high-powered lasers, microwave weapons, and its own defensive swarms currently being tested in the labs of DARPA and the Royal Navy. Beyond the tactical victory, the economic ripples are hitting global markets today, April 9th. On the screens of Navy Moments analysts, every tanker in the South China Sea has gone dark, turning off transponders to avoid detection. The Luzon Strait, the world's busiest maritime artery, is effectively frozen. This is the logistics shock. The world's supply of advanced AI chips is cut off, and global stock markets have begun a historic retreat as the reality of a closed ocean sets in. The port of Singapore, the heart of global trade, is at a standstill. Hundreds of container ships are anchored outside the harbor, refused entry due to the high risk of hidden drone threats. The just-in-time global economy has officially failed. This is the ultimate objective of Swarmageddon, not to destroy the Navy, but to make global commerce unaffordable. The insurance war is now the primary front, as shipping premiums skyrocket beyond the reach of most companies. As the sun rises over the Pacific on this April morning, the victory is clear, but the price is heavy. The carrier strike group is intact, but its magazines are nearly empty. It must now withdraw to a secure base in Guam to rearm, a process that takes days. This vulnerability window is exactly what the enemy intended to create. Presence is no longer enough. The Navy must now prove it can sustain its steel net under the pressure of continuous, low-cost attrition. The role of the coalition has never been more vital. Japanese and Australian destroyers arrived to relieve the American group, seamlessly plugging into the shared data link. This coalesced defense ensures that the network never sleeps. By sharing the burden of the interceptors, the Allies maintain a permanent, unbreakable shield. The 2026 crisis has turned independent navies into a single, global maritime police force, bound by the necessity of technological survival. On the flight deck of the USS Ford, MQ-25 Stingray drones are recovering after a long night. These unmanned tankers were the silent heroes, keeping the F-35s airborne for 12 hours straight. The era of the man-only fleet is dead. In 2026, the carrier is a hybrid platform, a mothership for autonomous systems that extend its reach by hundreds of miles. This integration of loyal wingmen has fundamentally redefined the projection of power in the Pacific. A high-tech digital globe at Navy Moments HQ shows the steel net as a glowing blue protective lattice over the world's oceans. It is the symbol of the new maritime order. The lesson of Swarmageddon is that security is no longer about the size of your ship, but the strength of your network. The network is the weapon, the ship is simply a node. This realization is being studied at every naval academy from Annapolis to the HMS Raleigh. The smoke clears to reveal a horizon littered with carbon fiber and scorched circuit boards. It is the garbage of war, a new environmental crisis following a new kind of battle. Navy Moments reflects on the fact that the ocean remains our most contested resource. The cost of freedom is rising, and the tools of defense are becoming increasingly invisible. We are fighting a war against an enemy that doesn't bleed, but can still bring the world to a halt. The future of naval power is here, and it is defined by the integrated shield. We have witnessed the failure of massed iron against the brilliance of data. The carrier strike group survived because it evolved faster than the threat. In the coming years, ships will be built from the keel up as floating lasers and supercomputers. The 2026 Indo-Pacific crisis was a wake-up call that the world heard loud and clear. This is Navy Moments, bringing you to the sharp edge of 2026 naval strategy. Data is our compass, and technology is our shield. As the flags of the coalition continue to fly over the Pacific, one message remains: the sea lanes will stay open, but only for those who can master the swarm. Subscribe to stay on the front lines of maritime innovation. Remember, at sea, there are no second places, only those who control the data, and those who sink.